Hello, folks. Welcome to the Manly Pinterest Tip Show. I'm Jeff C., and you're not. I've got a great show for you today. I've got my friends from Social Warfare here with me on Blab. But as always, I'd like for you to go over to manlypinteresttips.com. And if you haven't downloaded yet, I have a free toolbox, a Manly Pinterest Tips tackle box that has all my great tips and some tools in there. Social Warfare is in there as well. Just go to manlypinteresttips.com/tackle box for that free download. As I said, I'm very excited to have my friends from most of them. I think I met them all over on Google+, but I've been loving their Social Warfare plugin for such a long time. I'm glad to get them all together in this new technology where they can all be on the same screen at one time with Blab. But this isn't going to be a big commercial, so make sure you ask questions in the comment stream, and we'll try to get to those during the show. But I want to introduce the guys from the Social Warfare team. We've got Nicholas. Nicholas, say hi and introduce yourself and tell people where you're from.
Well, I'll start by saying that I am not Jeff C., and every time I hear him remind me of that, I cry just a little bit inside. No, I'm Nicholas Cardot. I'm from Northern Illinois. I'm a veteran, and that's why we named the plugin what we did, because I picked that name. And I'm the developer on the plugin. What else you want to know? Anything else?
That's good.
Okay.
That's good. Thanks for joining us today. Jason, where are you from, and what do you do, really? I mean...
Yeah, I don't know. Really, 20 minutes. I'm figuring that out myself. I'm actually reworking my website and trying to capture that is one of the hardest things you can do. No, do web development, business strategy, and the business backbone, if you will. I kind of hide out in the back office of the Social Warfare team.
So where are you from? Where are you blabbing from today?
Well, I'm blabbing today from my office over here in Eastern Europe, so it's a lot of fun.
So what time is it over there?
I don't know. It's 7 hours ahead of Eastern Standard, but all my clocks in my office are Eastern Standard.
Okay.
At work, so it's 10 o'clock, I guess.
Gotcha. And the guy in the bottom right screen is. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, Dustin.
Well, I am Dustin, the loud red V-neck T-shirt wearing member of the Social Warfare teams. I'm in beautiful, sunny Southern California. In fact, if I were to open up this window right now, I would turn white as a ghost because it's so bright outside. But I will spare you my powdery reflection and rely on my intelligent lighting to make me look warmer. I do a lot of the creative. Although Nick is a creative genius in and of himself, I handle a lot of the front-end design so that Nick doesn't have to worry about it. He just worries about making things do awesome things. I make sure they look awesome. And I also handle a lot of our customer support, the non-smart stuff. Nick handles the highly technical stuff, and I handle the easier stuff. What else do you need to know? That's what I do.
You know,
one of the many things I do.
Somebody had a question. It looks like your closet probably looks like Doug's from the Nickelodeon show back in the day. You remember Doug's? I remember that show. So my kids.
I used to watch Doug all the time.
He'd open his closet and it's just all the same thing. But that's how his is with those V-necks.
Yeah, that's me. That's
right.
My closet. Red V-neck T-shirts lined. My wife has 3/4 of our walk-in closet. I have one little section. And it's mostly.
I was thinking Blue's Clues. What's his name?
Steve.
Yeah,
Steve. There you go. Steve.
He's like a hard rocker now or something. Anyway, so. On social media, let's take a bird's eye view because there are probably some people watching and I want to kind of get everything on the ground level. But somebody who's new to social media, explain what social sharing is. Because that's talked about a lot of times. When somebody says social sharing, what does that mean? And Dustin, why don't you kick that off?
Yeah, so social sharing essentially just means somebody has taken a piece of content, whether it is a graphic or a web page or anything, and they have posted it or shared it onto a social network or something that can be considered a social arena. I consider a blog to be a social medium. It's not a social network, but it's a medium in which people can be social. So anytime something is shared on the internet in which people can interact with, I believe is what social sharing encompasses.
Gotcha. And a lot of times I know that it's talked about as like a social they say social sharing plugins. And, you know, so explain what that is, Nicholas, and since you're the kind of the tech guy, maybe you can, and because I know there's a difference because, you know, like even on some of the major platforms, let's say YouTube, they have social sharing buttons. And so what's the difference between that and a plugin, or is there any difference, or kind of break that down to somebody who may not know?
Yeah, well, basically the plugins or the buttons that you see on websites all over the place just allow visitors to your website to share content off of your page directly from the page itself, instead of having to go over to Twitter to share a link or over to Facebook or wherever. They can just click this button and it shares it out for them. And there's a lot of them around. You know, you can a lot of people install them directly from Facebook. They just copy the code and put it into a widget, and there it is. Or you install a plugin for WordPress that basically does that for you. Takes the standard share buttons from Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and they put it right on your website and for you, and it allows you to share that content out.
Cool. Hey, if you guys would, the people in the show, if you would tell us what and I promise they won't get on you, but what social sharing plugins that you guys use in the comment stream, because that will be interesting to see. What do you use on your site if you're a blogger or have a business page? What social sharing plugins you use, because I know there's so many different ones, and I kind of want to talk about some of the pluses and minuses of that, because it is very confusing. And
mention why too. Mention what you like about it.
Yeah, exactly. And because I know when people get started, they're like, okay, here's a free one. You know, there's big questions between what free offers and what, you know, paid version is. You know, like a premium WordPress plugin, which we'll talk about later. So, you know, and this is something too I wanted to talk about, because I know most all social sharing plugins show the counts of shares. Now, is that a good or a bad thing? Especially like if you're a new blogger, you know, you got your mom and your, you know, maybe your Aunt Sally, you know, who reads your blog, and you have two people. Is that bad? I mean, Jason, why don't you take that question?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. I was sitting there typing in the text. I'm so bad at blab.
Oh, God. All right. No, so you know, most social sharing plugins, if you look at them, or social sharing things at the bottom of a blog post or whatever, have the count numbers there. Yeah. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Especially if you're like a new blogger.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're asking, I think what you're asking is social proof. I mean, if your numbers are really bad, do you want to show your numbers or not? I don't know. And that's one of the reasons why we built that into the plugin, you know, is give you that option. If you don't want to show those numbers, you don't have to. But if you got good numbers, then yeah, show them. I don't know if you could say categorically, no, don't show them if they're bad numbers. I don't really have an opinion on that. I'm sorry, I'm not the right one to answer that.
What about you, Dustin? What do you think? Because I know you continue to blog, and I think you've answered this question before for me when I ask you.
Yeah, so I mean, both Nick and I have done a significant amount of psychological research, and there are plenty of psychological studies out there about social proof, and it's not just numbers, right? Facebook. I'm glad David Kutcher's in here to keep me level-headed. So, you know, there's studies done on social proof, and if you're not familiar with what social proof is the best example that I have found is that, you know, take two restaurants on the same city block. One restaurant has a line out the door, the other restaurant has no line whatsoever. Perception can be a powerful thing. You look at the restaurant with a line out the door and you perceive it to be the better restaurant because there's social proof. People are there, and you are taking the opinions of other people saying, oh, they're lined up, so it must be good. And so the idea of social proof on a website, you know, has many different faces. One of them is social shares. You know, the other is testimonials, reviews. But social share numbers can be a determining factor in whether or not somebody thinks, oh, this is a good article upon first impression without reading it. So there is definite benefits to having it, and plenty of studies out there. But your question, whether or not it's a bad thing if you don't have the numbers, I could probably debate either way. Okay. I would say, you know, that's why, you know, I think one of my favorite things about our plugin that we recently introduced was the ability to hide the social proof or the share counts until a certain number is reached. So if you want no numbers to show until you have, say, 30 shares, then, you know, we'll hide those shares until you reach that number.
The question does get me thinking about two different things, though. all right, let's look at that. Let's play that through. I'm a new blogger. I'm a new business. I launched my site. Of course, my numbers are going to be zero, right? So if I don't want to show these buttons or these numbers, then I'm not giving people a chance to click on the buttons or the numbers, right? I mean, they have to be there so they can click on them. They're going to see zero. So the question at that point is, do I allow people to add to them or not allow them to add to it? So, I mean, of course, put the buttons there and let people share your stuff and get your content out there. The second thing that question gets me to thinking about is I think there's a dangerous slope to this need to have big inflated numbers. And so you find people getting into these gaming circles that will create these ways to inflate their numbers. And I think that's infinitely more dangerous to try to chase the number game than it would be to just have your numbers be what the numbers are and let them grow organically over time. And just like the SEO folks say, just write organically, write naturally. Don't try to play the game. That would be, that's the only way I can really answer that, I think.
Ryan Hanley just made a comment. He says, social shares is by far the most important digital business metric. And back to both you and Dustin's point, Jason, you see a lot of people saying you need social proof, and then these same people say, well, the follower count really doesn't matter. And I think there's a little disconnect. Yeah, Nicholas, you have a comment?
I've got that. There's this report I read in one of the psychology journals a while back by Robert Cialdini, and he was talking about the principle of authority, which is similar. It's a different one than social proof, but it pretty much works the same way. If you see social proof, it influences you in a certain way. If you assume someone's an authority, that influences you in a certain way. And it was talking about that type of influence. And he was saying, basically, he did scientific experiments that basically proved how effective it is if you perceive someone as an authority. What they say will carry weight and influence with you. And it even worked when the authority was not legitimate. So like they'd have an actor who was pretending to be a doctor or something, and if they're prescribing Tylenol or whatever in this commercial, then it was more influential than if it was someone not pretending to be a doctor. And he even used an example about I think it was Brian Jennings or whoever one of the big newscasters was, interviewed the guy who played the president on West Wing and was interviewing him about presidential proceeding stuff during an election back in 2000. And it's like, what does this guy know? He's an actor. He's not actually a politician. But yet people are perceiving him to know about presidential proceedings, probably because he did some study or whatever for the show he was working on, but he wasn't an actual authority. Well, it's the same thing with social proof. Like, base logic tells us it doesn't actually mean anything. But psychology, it's like it still hits this trigger in your brain. Like I tell the story sometimes. I used to tell it back in the day about what was it? It was turkeys, I think it was. And they hear their young turkeys making this chirp sound, and so they know to take care of the young turkeys. And it's the I forget the name of the animal. I think it was like a polecat or something. That's like the turkey's arch nemesis. As soon as it sees that polecat, it attacks it. Even if you have a stuffed animal of it, it'll attack that stuffed animal. But if you put a tape recorder inside that animal that makes the chirp sound that their babies make, it'll try to like protect and take care of that stuffed animal, because it's just hardwired psychology into this turkey's brain. Yeah,
that's the same way when I see bacon, I just attack it. It's hardwired. It's hardwired into my brain.
It doesn't make sense, that it shouldn't trying to take care of that little thing that's supposed to be its enemy, just because it makes that particular sound. But that's how social proof. That's why Robert Cialdini called these the weapons of influence, because they're just so powerful that they transcend logic and they just work, even though logically they probably always shouldn't.
So, what is your opinion about the showing share counts when you're, you may be just getting started, you don't have a ton of them? What would your opinion be on that? What would you recommend somebody to do?
Well, you still want to have buttons there so people can use them, which is why we wanted it set up on ours that you can just hide the share counts. You have a button there with an icon and it says tweet this or share this or whatever, and it doesn't actually show any numbers, but it still gives them the opportunity to tweet it out. If you're not using our plugin, then I would say still get the buttons on there anyways, even if it shows the numbers, because you still want people to have access to it. So ideally, buttons without numbers. Next best step, just put it on there anyways, because you want people to have that opportunity. It's a call to action that helps get the word out.
Look, if you're spending all your time worrying about the numbers and how many numbers I have or I don't have, and if you're asking, if you're actually spending, renting out mental space on the question of should I even put this on my site, then I think that you're really going at your business the wrong way, right? Yeah. Let's say if your numbers are zero, make it somehow so that they're not zero. do some marketing, find some way to network, do something to get those numbers up there. But if you're like all pining, worried, oh no, they're at zeros, either find something that's going to help you change that, talk to somebody that can help you in marketing, or stop blogging. Just leave.
Just stop.
Chase Advisor says, just quit it. If you stink, just stop.
If you suck, stop.
The funny thing is, though, I always tell people that a social media manager who says they don't look at their follower counts is lying. We all, and we were talking about that before, about joking about Clout Score, but I bet we all pretty much know ours if we would be honest. We go there, once a month or whatever and see if it's working. So, there is some of that too. But I agree that if something's not working, you can use those numbers to say, okay, there must be a reason why people aren't watching my stuff, or the same way with the bounce rate on your site. If people are bouncing right off of it, there's something you need to do different. Yeah, put some video on it, keep them there, whatever. So, do you have a comment, Dustin?
Well, I was just going to say David Kutcher's hitting on some really great points, which is surprising. But so the idea is the numbers mean something. All numbers mean something. How much they mean, the value of those numbers is different for everyone. I'm actually writing a full blog post that I've been writing for a long time about how follower count is essentially meaningless. But in a sense, so are social share counts. They can be totally meaningless. If you're in a business or if you're writing a blog or have a website, and the point of that website is to sell subscriptions or to sell product, then all social shares are a means to getting traffic. That's it, a means to getting traffic, and that traffic is a means to getting sales. So, everything is sort of a means to whatever your end goal is. And, you want to have a full understanding of what those numbers mean and how valuable are, and what numbers are the most valuable for your business, which is kind of one of the things we tried to build into the plugin too, which is analytics tracking, so that people can really look and see what's the ROI of this social traffic. Is it traffic that's converting? Is it is it leading to sales, or is it leading to our goals and email signups? And
exactly, and that's why it's all about your business needs and knowing your business goals. Because, again, if your target audience, the people who are actually converting and buying your stuff, aren't coming from social media, like maybe you're just in an industry that's not really where you connect. I worked with a client recently who sells little tiny widgets that go into microwaves and boats and everything else, little electronic pieces. They're probably not out connecting with people on social media. That's probably not a high priority for them. Mm-hmm. They want to get found in search by engineers. So for them, they don't need some big, amazing social proof. They're not going to get big, amazing social proof. That's not their business goal. So they need to be tailoring their business for their audience, these engineers. And
I think that's what David Kutcher's comment was. He said that it's also important to remember that some of your best traffic can often be the traffic that gets zero social proof, that people don't feel inclined to plus or share it, but pick up the phone and hire you, which I've had clients that, they said, oh yeah, I've been following you on Pinterest or Facebook or Google Plus for years.
You never even seen their name pop up, right?
They didn't even plus one or nothing. And so it's just, that's a good point too. But what are you laughing at, Jason Weiser?
just blab. I'm just such a noob here.
He's tickled pink. He is tickled pink.
Stuff going on and trying to take the conversation seriously, and Mark's over here cracking me up. And this is cool. This is cool. Keep going.
Blab's a lot of fun.
Oh, Blab is cool. So here's a question too. And so how accurate are the social counts? Because I know I've talked to Dustin in private before that there's been issues, especially with Pinterest API not reporting right.
Get me started.
And so how do you deal with that? Are those really accurate numbers, or do they just kind of wait and they decide they'll update, once a week? How does that work? How do do all social share buttons get information from the same source? I think that might be something interesting to our audience. They may not know that.
Well, I can't speak to all social sharing plugins, but I can speak to how we've built it. And one thing that we are 100% dedicated to is accurate numbers. 100% accurate numbers. So we tie in directly to, and Nick can probably explain this much better, but we tie directly into each social network's API. So whenever we display a count, it's because we've called, Facebook, for example, and said, how many times has this URL, it matches it with the URL of the page that they're on, How many times has this URL been shared or acted upon on your network? And so all the data is stored on that native network, Facebook or Pinterest or Google+. We are asking them, what are your stats on this URL? And so we get 100% accurate numbers. Now, the problem is if there is a bug in the API, like Pinterest, which Pinterest has admittedly said multiple times, because I've yelled at them on several occasions.
Don't yell at Pinterest.
I've yelled at Pinterest. And as much as I can yell through email, right. I have yelled at them. So there's a bug in the API that every now and then, a URL will get pinned into Pinterest, and for whatever reason, the bug just says, we're not counting anything that happens with this URL, and so you get 0 share counts.
The pin count will be going up for a day. Next day it goes up a little bit more, and then like third, fourth day, 0.
Yeah. Or it just always stays 0, no matter how many times, or it stays at 1. I have posts that just stay at 1 the whole time.
So I wrote a script for our plugin that basically it checks the numbers, and if the number is 5 one day and the next day the number comes back lower from Pinterest, it just ignores it and keeps the last good number we got from them.
Well, it's kind of important for a Pinterest guy when you go look at his social shares. Everything, it's a big goose egg. That's not good for me. So yeah, thanks for doing that.
That's huge.
Yeah. So the other question I wanted to ask you guys is and this is kind of personal because I'm trying to figure out the click to tweet thing, because I know a lot of people do it. A lot of the big bloggers, Rebecca Radice and Peg Fitzpatrick, do that, where they have it in the post. They have like a little quote that comes out, and Nicholas just went away. But I can't. I don't. What's the best practice for that? I'm not really sure. Because I'm just kind of been relying on the button, the tweet button, the Twitter icon. Yeah. They'll send it out because I can customize it with you guys as plugin. But is there for those quotable tweets? Is there a best practice you're supposed to do? Certain place on the page? What is that?
Totally. So I mean, at the end of the day, use it however you want, because you know your audience best. But part of the reason we thought that this plugin needed to happen was the customization feature. So you can customize what happens or what pops up when that person hits the pin button. You've selected the image, you've written the description yourself, the custom tweet, you've crafted that. So with the click to tweet, it's that same idea. You want to give people an easy way to share something relevant with their audience. And, for people who are scanning through articles, we know that most blog posts just get scanned through and only 20% or so of the content is actually read. So the click to tweet offers an eye-catching stopping point within the content. So they're scrolling through a bunch of text, all of a sudden, whoa, what's that? Big box. But it makes it super easy for them to just click and tweet that quote. If it's a quote that resonates with them, a lot of times what I'll do in my blog posts is do like a hashtag pro tip. Like I'll have a whole section about whatever this section is, and then I'll summarize it in the form of a tweet and say, pro tip, never use Sniply. Trying to poke at a Jason Weiser rant there.
Oh no, don't.
But it's a great way to just give people something easy to share. That way, you're not having to make them think about what they want to share, which can be a good thing or a bad thing. But
so
we're all for the use.
So what's the difference? Do you think it's better to have it on the page where they actually see it? It says click to tweet, where it has the quote in the box, or is it because you can populate whatever you want in your Twitter shares? So there's value actually putting it on the page where people can see it.
You know what I love doing on my blog with the click to tweets? I actually I create it so that as people scroll, something comes off the screen and something else is coming on the screen, and there's always going to be some call to action like happening, and those are usually click to tweets, right? And it does a couple cool things for me. One, I get to see who's actually reading, how far down the page. So as I start watching those click to tweets come up in my tweet streams, then I can be like, oh, wow, this is cool. Somebody actually read the whole article instead of just hitting, instead of just landing at the share buttons at the very top and then clicking across. And yes, David Kutcher, I know that I could do that with Google Analytics as well, but I do like this. I do like to use my click to tweets that way. I think it's pretty cool.
Very cool.
And I want to speak real quickly to what David Kutcher is saying. A lot of times it's not, it's not that you're quoting yourself. There's that weird thing where sometimes people quote themselves. I've done it before, so I'm guilty. but and I learned my lesson. But it's more like it's giving people an easy way to summarize what they're reading or a point that they really resonated with. So not necessarily, I'm quoting myself and giving you the opportunity to quote me. Like here, quote me on this.
Right.
Because I'm so brilliant.
Well, Mark Trapagan said, we get 200 to 400 more tweets per post when we use click to tweet. That's huge. I mean, that's worth doing it. And you don't have to quote yourself if that's against your morals. You could, what I use the tweet button for is I usually have it and I mention my guests. Like I would put it and set it up for it and
Perfect
say, these guys were in my show, and so there's kind of social proof built in when they see that come up on Twitter when people retweet it. The cool thing is you can do the same thing with the Pinterest description. You can mention people in there and they get pinged over on Pinterest.
And what's funny? I learned that from you. I didn't even think of that until you mentioned it. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's brilliant!"
It works. It works really good. So,
it's like we
quote that. Quote Jeff on that. Tweet. Click to tweet it.
Yeah.
Pro tip.
I can't quote myself, so I won't do it.
It's like we say on social warfare on our website. We say it helps people share your content the way that you want it to be shared. Right? So that's what's so awesome about click to tweet, right? You write the tweet that you want people to share, and you think about, as somebody's scrolling through the streams, what are they going to hit? So if you take, hey, you're taking all this time to write this long blog. I mean, how much harder is it to write a 140 character tweet? I mean, it does take a little bit more energy, but it's a different kind of thing. But come on, seriously, take some time to write that tweet too, so that when it does appear in somebody's stream, then it's easier to, for them to be like, wow, okay, this is a tweetable thing. I want to share this out instead of it being, okay.
What are your thoughts, Nicholas, on the click to tweet? Do you have any best practices that you use?
Best practices that I use? I don't even use it. I'll be honest with you. Really, I'm a developer, and I'm not a power social media user. Like
you don't have any time. Yeah.
Dustin are like when I see something out in the wild, I call up Dustin and I'm like, hey, what do you know about this? And then he tells me, and he's like, and that'd be a cool idea for the plugin, or it wouldn't be a cool idea. So he's the power user, not me. But he tells me do this, and I do it.
Well, no. Here's the thing. I tell him, and he's like, okay, and he makes it like way better, and it functions better than I even wanted to think of it. So we're a perfect team that way.
Here, can I take a poll real quickly, because I just see that Lori just said that social warfare plugin is the best money they've ever spent.
I was going to read that so it wouldn't seem like a big commercial. Do you want me to do it?
No, I just already did. What I want people to do though is to in the chat go. I'm hijacking your show for a minute here. In the chat, tell us if you're using social warfare. That's all. All right, that's the end of my commercial. I just want to know. Curious to know how many of these people are actually using it. Type in yes or no.
Okay. So what I was going to ask you. So let's if we're going to go into the social warfare, I want to know how it got started. So how did you guys end up together in this unruly bunch? How did this start?
Okay, before they start, they've got two different histories between Dustin and Jason, so I have to set this record straight. Approximately the same time,
because I have an idea of how it started, and then Jason has some weird idea of how it started.
Here's what happened, and it was approximately the same time frame. Jason came to me and had some ideas for something that he wanted to do for social sharing on his blog. Dustin came to me with some ideas, and so I was working with just each of them separately. And then after like a little while of working with them separately, I realized let's bundle all this together into one big thing. We bundled it all together, and all three of us came together. So they didn't know that I was working with the other one at the same time at the very beginning before like we formed a company or anything. So Dustin knows his side of the history, and Jason would always tell his side of the history.
So who was paying better? I would have went with them.
Well, I was doing some work for Jason at the time, but
okay.
I would say we were just being creative and trying to think of stuff.
No, what was cool about it is because I came at it from how can we speed up our sites for our customers and make social sharing really simple and easy. And Dustin comes in saying, how can we make it, more beautiful and more efficient for people that, for people that are really concerned about social sharing, right? So here I'm just trying to make it faster for the end user, and Dustin's trying to make it more efficient for the end user and more beautiful. And so Nick's kind of in the middle going, yeah, this is great. So I think that's why we all kind of complimented each other so well.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Now,
but the thing I love most about the story is it was bred out of needs. needs of people. I mean, I love hearing stories of, startups that were like, man, we were so frustrated with this and we couldn't find a solution, and then we just made the solution. And I've always wanted to be a part of a team that is like, has that mindset of, we couldn't find a solution, so we made it. And that is was just
now,
a storm.
The only reason actually I went over to social warfare is because of the Pinterest angle. That it allowed me to select the image that I want to pin to Pinterest. And as far as I know, are there any other plugins that let you do that? There may be now, but when I was looking, there sure wasn't. Because that's a big deal.
I'm going on Blab record and saying no.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm right or not, but that's what I'm going on record saying.
Because, I mean, seriously, there's not any competition, and that's why.
Well, there's pin it button. There are other buttons out there that can do some of the things, but there's nothing out there that can allow you to customize it the way you can in one simple, easy interface like we have in the dashboard.
Yeah, I have not found another social sharing plugin that will allow for that type of customization for Pinterest. If there is, I haven't seen it.
Because most of the time, and I found this working with other clients, the buttons that they use, when you click on the pin it button, a social share, it brings up every image on the page, no matter if it's an ad or something else, and it just doesn't work. And so just like Dustin's, I know his counts went up. It just really, it shot up. People pin in my stuff organically and all sorts of things.
I mean, because that's a basic principle of any business, right? Reduce friction for the end user. Make it as easy as possible for the end user to accomplish the action that they're trying to accomplish. And so that's what we do.
Okay, so it makes it more frictionless for the blogger. They get their content shared the way they want, and then the people that are actually looking at your pin board are more likely to pin something that has been optimized to be pinned and to help get your messaging out there. So you've written your blog, now you customize your tweet, now you customize your imagery. I mean, you take that, it allows you to take it deeper and deeper to really think about, because what are we doing here with all this, right? We want to be able to break through all that noise. We want to be able to, especially on Twitter, right? Stuff's going by so fast. How are you going to make your stuff stand out? Well, we're going to give you a couple more tools to help you kind of maybe get a little bit of a leg up on that, or at least, I think a huge leg up. But I want to also, Lee, you said that there's another, nextscripts.com does this?
Oh, now the show is over. So if you guys have any questions for us as we're kind of getting down to the 30-minute, we're probably going to end the show at 2:45. But if you have any questions for these guys, make sure you ask them in the comments, and I will get to them. But I wanted to go to another point because you guys have, I think, really excel at this, and because I can ping you whenever I want. But you're the way you handle customer support, I think, is huge because I know you guys implement a lot of stuff from the users. And so when you first launched, wasn't that overwhelming? To keep up with demand? I mean, because I know you were like, okay, Peg Fitzpatrick, what do you want? Hey, Rebecca Radice, what would really help you out? I mean, that's a lot. I mean, I know everybody just kind of overwhelms you with questions, and as you guys grow, isn't that a scaling issue for you trying to keep up with the great customer service?
Well, see, at the beginning, it was pretty easy because we built the plugin based on a number of things, a number of values that we all shared. Customization, psychology, the paradox of choice, limiting the options people are given. So it's kind of easy. A lot of things that people tend to ask for are more buttons. They want more sharing options. And, that's fine. We know based on data that when you give people more options, they actually choose less. So it was really easy in the beginning to tell people, look, that's a great idea. We'll add it to our list of consideration, but at the moment, it's not on our roadmap. But it has posed a problem as people got more ideas, and our community has some brilliant ideas, by the way, yourself included, Jeff. So we're keeping track of a lot of this stuff, but because of the system that we've implemented, we're able to sort of tag things, and this new direction that we're going with making the plugin developer friendly is going to be absolutely huge for us because it'll allow us to scale features. Allow third-party developers to sort of hook into our plugin and build what we're calling add-ons. So if you want a buffer button, and one of our if a third-party developer decides to add an add-on for buffer for the social warfare plugin, we can have it. So it will get. Go ahead.
I want to kind of loop back to that point you said about not having as many options. I mean, so even if those developers give you that option, it may not be the best way to go from a psychological standpoint for sharing and all that stuff. So can you guys kind of dive into that real quick? Why you limited the social channels that you can use?
Yeah, and Nick has done extensive research on this. It's the principle of the paradox of choice. And if you just do a search for the paradox of choice online, you will find a whole lot of information. Essentially, it's this: people think they want more options. They believe, especially in America, in the U.S. we're trained and bred to think that we have all this freedom and we want as many options, we want to consider as many things as possible. But the reality is, psychologically, when we're presented with more options, we actually are less likely to take action because it's paralysis by analysis. We're afraid to make the wrong choice. And so, we've done our research and know that less options means more actual actions. And we have one of our users, I won't disclose who it is. They have a relatively large site. We're talking in the tens of millions of page views per month. And they've done plenty of testing, and we're working with them to maybe create an actual case study. But they showed that when they switched to a plugin that had limited options, in fact, they limited their options down to 2 buttons, only 2 options for sharing. When they did that, as opposed to giving them everything in the kitchen sink, their social shares actually increased by 30+%. That increased the inbound traffic by over 10%. So the idea that, if I give people more options, I'll get more shares is really null and void at that point. Now, there are certain networks that will do better for certain websites that we don't offer. We have a few people who do really well on StumbleUpon, which is beyond me because I didn't know StumbleUpon was still active. Right. But this one user does really well on StumbleUpon, so they're really hoping to get a StumbleUpon feature. So, but that psychological idea, less options equals more action, is proven time and time again.
As long as they have a pinnable image, they can put 2 buttons on the side. But what about you, Nicholas? What do you have to add to that?
Yeah, same thing. Like, I'm probably going to start adding more buttons to it, but what I'm probably going to do is make it so that, how you can drag and drop the order of your buttons? Probably what I'm going to do is, like, if there's 10 buttons on there, would move your 5 favorite to the top, because those are the only 5 that's
only 5 available.
Gotcha. So on that, when you're talking about, making new changes and stuff, do you have any new features you can tease us that are coming down the road that you kind of might share with our audience?
Yeah, there's a few ideas. One of them is I want to add buttons to blog post images. Any images throughout the content area. You'll hover over it and there'll be a little a pin it button or a little tweet button or something like that, just nice and small up in the corner or something. Nothing that would overlay it so heavily you can't actually read what the graphic is saying or whatever. Just something small, like you've probably seen that around. We're trying to get some increased analytics so that when people click on are clicking on buttons and stuff, you can send event tracking information to Google Analytics and stuff like that, so you can actually track what's being clicked on and stuff. What else we got going on, Dustin? We got a bunch of stuff. Got a roadmap around here somewhere.
Well, you know what? Why don't you mention right now just a few things real quickly that are in there that many people don't even know are in there yet, right? We know that there's this custom Pinterest. We know that there's custom imagery and custom.
Here's one I just added. I just added this last week. The ability to put the buttons on a page but reflect a different page. So, for example, someone subscribes to your email list and then they're on a thank you page. Well, you don't want them tweeting or sharing the thank you page. You want them to tweet or share the subscription page and reflect the numbers of the subscription page. So they click the tweet button and it tweets the link to the subscribe.
I bugged Nick for that feature for so long.
No, you didn't bug me. You nagged me.
I nagged. And I bothered because I have that same workflow for a lot of the stuff. I'm in the trenches with Dustin.tv, trying to figure out what works best. And then when I think of something, I go, Nick, I need this. Please. And, right. I do that for my email subscribers. They subscribe, they get sent to a thank you page. but I don't want them sharing the thank you page. I want them sharing that subscribe page that they just came from. So I was like, Nick, I need to have this.
Or if you have a WooCommerce shop.
Or a WooCommerce shop, exactly.
My account page, you don't want them to share the My Account page. You want them to share them to the shop homepage, or your order is complete page. You don't want them to share the order is complete page. Maybe you want them to share the shop homepage or the product that they just bought if you only offer 1 or 2 products or whatever. You want them to share something else. You want to reflect that.
Okay, what about the most popular posts? Can you talk about that real quickly? Because I don't think a lot of people understand that.
We cache all the share numbers, right? And we cache them into WordPress, and then we use those numbers to create a popular post widget. There's a lot of people out there who have popular post widgets, but nobody in the world that I know of has a popular post widget that's based on your social shares. So the one that's shared the most, that's the one that goes on top. The one that gets shared the next most, that's the next most popular. All the others, I mean, there's some out there that have this really weird formula and you have to assign points to everything. Oh, I think I want a comment to be worth 5 points. I want a page view to be worth 2 points. And there's all the, have you guys played with any of those plugins?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm assuming since you guys built it, it's lightweight. It's not going to drag your site down, because a lot of those widgets I've noticed also can really start dragging.
Running a million different calculations.
It's just another number in the database. So what else is cool about this, Jeff, is not only can we say your most popular post by total shares, but Jeff, you being a Pinterest guy, you could say, here's our most popular post on Pinterest.
You can sort by social networks.
As long as the API is right.
So as long as your API is right?
Yeah.
And then here's our most popular post on Twitter, and here's our most popular post on Facebook. So you can start to like break down your audience kind of the way you want. I think it's just the most amazing thing. That's one of my favorite features.
Yeah,
really.
and 2 things.
It's not talked about a lot. I wish we would talk about it more.
2 things that we're in the process of looking into. One related to that is I would love to build something like that popular post that can tell where the user's coming from and serve them up the relevant popular post. So if somebody just clicked on a link from Twitter, we're going to know that they're coming from Twitter, and instead of showing them your most liked or most pinned ones, we'll show them the most tweeted. So it's based on their refer, it will serve up the most relevant popular posts.
Gotcha.
The other one that we're working on too, where'd it go? Had it right here.
I want to talk about.
Go for it.
It says, how many times does social warfare phone home? Most other social plugins drag your site down while you wait for them to deliver scripts, images, etc. Most other ones, the plugin or the button itself, every single button, if you use the standard one from Facebook, the standard one from Google+, that button has a JavaScript file, some CSS, and an image icon. So that's at least 3 requests. Most of them are like that. Some are maybe 2 requests. But if you have 5 buttons on there, you've got between 10 and 15 different requests going out there. To power all of our buttons, we've got 1 CSS file, 1 JavaScript file, and we have all the icons inside of a font file. So there's 3 files that powers all the buttons and everything. All the animations you see, everything that takes place is in those 3 files.
And it's all cached. So how often do we have to actually call up those APIs?
And calling the APIs, we only do that once per hour. And after that, we store it with WordPress. So we just have that information ready to blast out instantly. There's no API request taking place every single time the page loads. It takes place 1 time. That's it.
Which is why on a blog roll where you want to put your sharing buttons on every single blog roll, some people like to do that.
And you've got
ours is lightning fast.
Yeah.
Where everybody else is like, you have to do this asynchronous to make it thing load at all.
Because if you've got 5 buttons on there and you've got 10 blog posts, that's 50 API requests going out every time that's going. With ours, it's 50 the one time and then 0 every time after that.
Just like Nerd Out. Okay.
For the non-nerds out there, why is that important? Why? And is there a tool that you can go if you're like, well, my site's maybe it's slow, I don't know. Is there a place where you can send them and say, go here? I have a couple, but I want to know what you guys use, because why is that important? Why is
the most important? A slow loading site is a quick bounce rate in most cases, unless they're desperate to see your information. If they end up coming there and it's taken forever to load, and what they're waiting on is those social share buttons, then they're going to bounce away.
So for even the less nerdy word for that is slower load time means people leave and they don't stay on your site.
That's what I said. What
did I say? Bounce rate.
Yeah,
some people bounce rate.
And the other thing, because I actually took off Pinterest's own widget on my site because I went and checked it, and it was slowing down my site tons. And so you know, even to somebody who's been in it for a while and just thought, oh, it's from Pinterest, it'll be fine. No, you need to check those things out. So what are some sites they can go to see what their site speed is and maybe compare it to something else?
Pingdom Tools, Google Speed, YSlow, what?
GTmetrics.com.
GTmetrics is fantastic. Yep.
All great.
And built into Firebug is one as well.
Yep.
Okay.
Which is Mozilla's browser.
Hey,
Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say to point and stare out there. I love how fast our plugin is. I would love it if you want to test it and see if you find something that could be sped up even faster, and you let me know and I'll make it faster.
Gotcha. Okay, the last kind of the wrap-up question: Why would I pay when there's so many free WordPress? If I go to the repository of WordPress plugins, there's free social sharing sites. Why should I use Social Warfare?
It's the difference between going down and listening to the street musician or paying to go listen to a top-level rock band at a concert.
No, what do you want it to do for you? I mean, you can make it do it for free. Fine. It's like, why you want to be on WordPress.com or WordPress.org? Do you for what we are charging? It is, you get everything. Go out there and look at all the different the social share plugins, then popular post, and the click to tweets, and all the plugins you would have to install, and the time it takes to install that. Ask yourself, how much do you pay yourself an hour, and is it worth this to have this thing on your site for 1 year? And I would hope that you're making at least okay.
Yeah. So for $2 a month, it's $24 a year. For $2 a month, is it worth giving your readers or your website visitors the most optimal sharing options possible if it drives traffic back to your site?
And
that's
for
what it
me,
comes down to.
if you're having a product and you're on Pinterest, which if you have a product, you should be on Pinterest. This is the only plugin that lets you customize your pins and what people pin. I mean, it just is. There's nothing else out there like it, and it just works. And these guys are great. I really appreciate being on the show. So we haven't even said I can't even believe Weiser hasn't said the web URL yet. So Dustin, where can you find this awesome plugin?
Well, Craig just put it in the comments there, warfareplugins.com.
Oh, you didn't put my affiliate code. Okay. So guys, hey, thanks for coming on the show, and it's been great always hanging with you guys. And as always, I'd love for you guys to go over to manlypinteresttips.com and click on the sidebar and subscribe to our email community. Well, you'll never miss great guests like we had with the Social Warfare team today, because at Manly Pinterest Tips, we're always adding testosterone one pin at a time. See you next time, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm going to go off the record. And I don't know. I mean, somebody could jump off. I want to turn the recording on because Ross will say something really profound that I want to capture. So, hey, Ross, how are you, man?
If I just start going, like, they'll be like, "Wow,
that's right.
that was amazing."
Well, the cool thing is with this blab, it stitches it together. When you turn it off the recording and turn it back on, it's just so stinking cool.
Oh, you shouldn't have told me that.
Yeah.
Because then you can do like stop action type of.
Yeah, exactly.
Blab. Stop action blab in the house.
So, Ross, what do you use for social sharing?
Over there. What? Say again. Sorry.
What do you use for social sharing? Because these guys will jump on you if you're not using Social Warfare.
You know what? Here's the deal. I keep hearing about it, and I know I got fluffy hair here. I was doing yard work today, so I try not to do too much of that. I use I think it's ShareBar. It's old. I know it's old. I had that on my site for a while because it was cool when it was in the scope, but then it's one of those things that you're waiting to update because, I tried a few things and they were glitchy, and I tried some different things. I tried the, Flare one or whatever. That never worked, and so I was like, okay, well, whatever. Good enough was good enough at that point. But the fact is that in social media, you tend to circle around, you know what I mean? Like you'll go off and you'll be doing this and you'll drive your audience growth, or you'll be doing this and that. And then you come back and you look at your blog and you go, oh my gosh, I just wrote a post about something and my blog looks like crud. I need to change that and tweak that up. So I've been going back through and I think you have to kind of refresh because you're constantly learning. And sometimes it's the painter's house that's got the peeling paint, and you look back and you go, oh my goodness, what am I doing here? So yeah, a lot of this stuff, I've been hearing about this plugin, and so now I got to go and do my duty, especially because isn't it funny? Here's the funny thing. you build these plugins or people build this stuff, but you want to know what can convert sales as much as features is relationships. And the fact is that I'm more driven. I mean, there's tons of tools and things out there that anybody can use. Like it's nonstop. The fact is what's going to motivate me is because I'm friends with Dustin. And so I see his thing and I'm like, I need to go over there and check it out. And you know what? That's powerful. And people don't understand even things like Blab, like getting on and being a real person to the people who could use your stuff. I mean, you have to motivate them over that barrier of resistance, which is what I got, is what I got and I don't need to change to, you know what? Cool features plus a friend. I'm going to go check it out. And I think that seems corny, but you know what? People need to, that's influencer marketing in a sense, it's relationship marketing.
And I think that's true because that's how I got involved with, I got a wacky echo from you, Ross. I was able to, Dustin said, hey, I've got this, I want you to test it. And that's how I got started with social warfare. So I think your point is very, very valid. And so, but the features for me made the difference. I went because of Dustin, but I stayed because of what it could do with my Pinterest. And I saw how it increased my Pinterest shares. So anyway, so Ross, hey man, thanks for stopping by. I'm going to boot you off and see if somebody else wants to come in, if that's cool. Awesome, man. See you a little bit. All right. Oh, Denise Wakeman. Let's get her on. She is always
Ross,
smart.
Nice meeting you, by the way. I didn't have a chance to say hi, but I'll definitely circle around and see.
Sorry, I didn't. I had Denise on my show the other day. She is always there. She is. Here she comes.
Oh.
There you are.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes. Okay. Good.
Very cool.
Hi there.
How are you doing?
I'm great, and great show, and I'm a huge fan, as you know, too, of social warfare, and I'm a huge fan of you, Jeff. So, thank you. You ask great questions. You bring it down to those of us who don't know these techie things. But and I'm a fan of Jason. I'm a fan of Nicholas because he's such a great customer service guy.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And, thinking about what Ross was saying, that about the relationship, I think it's because I also knew Dustin and Jason, and it's like, okay, I'll check out, and I started seeing people talking about it that I trusted. And I love the plugin because it does so much. I could get rid of like 3 or 4 other plugins. And
right.
Nice. Can we put that on the website? It does so much because I can put away. Did you write that down? Good. Thank you, Denise.
I'll send you a copy of the recorded, Jason.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I'm happy to be a testimonial.
I like what you're saying. I know it's post-show, but we didn't have a chance to address it, but Jeff had asked the question about scaling or growth, and right about the same time you mentioned how much you love this customer support, and that's exactly something that we're looking at right now is how can we get more nicks, because there's going to be a point where, his customer support is everybody's raving about it. We've got tickets responses down to less than 10 minutes right now. It's just phenomenal how fast.
It's a little longer than that, but I kind of get I get the short end of the stick because anyone who submits a ticket on the weekend or in the middle of the night, well, I'm the guy doing most of the support. So you're just going to wait until I get in the next morning and get it taken care of. But I just wrote a blog post. I put a link in the sidebar there about it too, called My Journey of Failure and Success in Our Ticket Support System, because they actually set the ticket support system up. I was gone for almost a full month in June for some military training. And so I come back and they elevate everything to me if they can't figure it out. I come back and I've got like 50 tickets in there that I'm supposed to take care of. And if it's a ticket that requires my attention, it's not something I can fix in 30 seconds. It's something I have to look into, troubleshoot, figure it out, and come up with a solution. So, I was just swamped with these tickets, and there was tickets that sat in there for days at a time because I was just trying to just dredge through them, and I didn't want to go in the ticket system some days. Finally, we got it all caught up, and now we're keeping it down to, inbox 0 type status pretty much every single day. But, man, it was hard,
Yeah, and, I really appreciate that about you, and I jumped on pretty soon after you guys launched, I think, and I had a couple of little tweaky things that I couldn't figure out, and you were right on it. And that to me is, makes me a loyal customer, for life. So good. And I've heard about some things that, I haven't seen yet. I haven't looked at. So thank you.
Someone asked me today when I took care of an issue earlier today, and they're like, "Hey, this was really good customer support. Where do I need to go to rate you?"
That's good. That's really good. Hey, Denise, I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
This is kind of off topic, but what do you think of this Blab Network? I know I've seen you come on here a couple times. Are you going to do your show here, you think, or what?
I did it first one this morning. I did my first one this morning, and I had a very interesting experience because I was a guest on someone else's Hangout on Air this morning, really early, and it totally failed. It said it was live. I was answering all the questions. We were having a conversation, and it wasn't showing for the audience. It did. We did find out that it did record, and that had happened to me once a few months ago. Then an hour later, I came on and did my show on Blab, and it was crazy. It was so fun. Everybody was loving it. I had a total non-techie geek, like a person who thinks that technology breaks when she looks at it. She could use it. She was happy. The audience, I brought a lot of new people who hadn't been on Blab before, hadn't even heard about it till they got my email. They loved it. We were going crazy with Blab love. So, you can see where I am.
Yeah, well, I said to somebody that it was Eric Fisher and I were talking, and we compared it to, Google Hangouts is like Microsoft, and Blab is like Apple. It just works. It just, yeah. You can't get rid of Google Hangouts for like business stuff and doing a closed seminar and stuff like that. And I don't think Blab has any plans of making it go private. But it's just so easy for people to jump on like this. It's just. And the recording's really good quality too. So I'm impressed.
Yeah, I was just looking at my recording before I jumped on here, and I was like, okay, this is cool. The only difference is I have to upload it to YouTube now.
Right.
So that's okay. Well, anyway, I don't want to blabjack.
No, I was
somebody else a chance.
Yeah, I was interested in your perception, and so a lot of podcasters are going to jump on it too. So thanks, Denise, for coming by. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's really good seeing and hearing all you guys.
It's
been a while. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, Kristen said she's going to take some feels away because I said Apple. Oh well. Oh, hey Nazim, we'll have Nazim on and then we'll shut the show down. I just want to say hi to him real quick, and I appreciate you guys for your time. But Nazim's coming all the way from Italy, and I have to say hi to him. So.
Great to.
What, are you in bed?
Man, Linkless, I love your product, dude. And the customer services.
Good, awesome.
Well, you broke up, Nazim. I'll let you get back to bed. I didn't know you were going to call me from bed, so we're going to go ahead, Jason.
Nazim, did you see that we are going to be expanding into doing multilingual support? So maybe we're going to have to hit you up and have you give us a hand there on some of that stuff.
Hey, sure, I'd love to, man.
All right, see you later, Nazim. Thanks for coming by. Hey, guys, thanks so much for coming by the show. I appreciate your time. And, Jason, I know it's late there for you. And, Nicholas, you're always awesome. I'm glad I'm not the only one who thinks you're an awesome guy at support. So thanks again for being on the show. Thanks for everybody who watched, and we'll see you next time on the Blab. See you guys.
Thanks.